You should get you a man that loves to give you flowers.
Before Brittany Bolden could ring in the new year, at this home, her life was taken away. She was a daughter, a sister, and a mother of 4.
But she had a kind heart, a kind spirit, and I was proud to say she was my daughter.
A heartbroken mother of Brittany Bolden talks about the tragic end of her beloved daughter. According to the Tuscaloosa Violent Crimes Unit, on December 31st, Bolden was shot and killed by her boyfriend, Lavelle Rogers.
I just don't think Brittany thought that it would go that far. You see what I'm saying? And I mean, maybe none of us really thought that.
I never expected it to be my family. I never expected it to be my sister to be murdered, cold murder in front of her 5-year-old. I want justice to be served, and I do want him to understand, like, the pain that he caused and all the things that he have done to the family.
A man is facing a capital murder charge for the shooting death of his girlfriend in Tuscaloosa. Authorities say Brittany Bolden was fatally shot last night on Joyce Lewis Lane. After going over evidence, the woman's boyfriend, Lavelle Rogers, was arrested and charged with capital murder. Authorities say that the two had a domestic violence issues in the past. Rogers is facing a capital murder charge because investigators say the couples were present at the time of the murder.
Get you a man that loves to give you flowers. Those were the words Brittany Bolden posted online. A celebration, a declaration, proof for all her world to see that she had found what she was looking for. By New Year's 2025, her family was picking out flowers for a very different reason. Flowers for her casket. What happens in the space between a perfect post and a funeral? How does a woman's own curated story of love become the evidence that obscures a terrifying truth? Before we go any further, if you're new here, you've found True Crime Unraveled. To our family on YouTube, Facebook, and TikTok, True Crime Unraveled TV, we see you. We read every single comment, and we are so grateful you're here. Keep them coming. Now let's unravel this. This isn't just another story about domestic violence. We've heard those, and we know the grim statistics by heart. This is a story about the story itself. The one we tell ourselves and the one we present to the world. Brittany Bolden's social media feed was a gallery of happiness, Miami trips, birthday cheers, heartfelt anniversaries with her boyfriend, Lavelle Rogers. It was a portrait of a blended family, of a hardworking mother of 4 who'd finally caught a break. But the police in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, had been to her house on Joyce Lewis Lane before. There was a paper trail hiding in plain sight. And on December 31st, when the final act played out in front of children, the first assumption was a murder. Officials initially wondered if it was self-inflicted. So, which version was real? The flawless digital fairy tale, or the troubled reality the neighbors might have heard? Our journey tonight is to dissect the gap between them. Because in that gap, in the space between #MyFavoriteLeo and a capital murder charge, lies a warning more chilling than any ghost story. A warning about the pictures we're taught to believe, especially the ones we take ourselves. To understand the ending, you have to understand what Brittany was building. A 34-year-old nursing student at Shelton State. A mother of 4, ages 17, 13, 12, and 5. She worked multiple jobs. Her friends describe a woman with a kind heart, a nurturing spirit, who lived for her kids and her faith. In the summer of 2023, she met Lavelle Rogers, also 34, a truck driver, a father of 2. He presented a certain image: the flowers, the help around the house, the engagement with her children. And Brittany, she documented it all. She posted gratitude for a man who steps in when he sees you tired. She celebrated their 1-year anniversary with a public shout-out. Thank you for being such an amazing person in my life. The photos from Miami showed laughter, sunshine, a couple seemingly in sync. She called him her kid's bonus dad. This was the narrative. A single mother's hard-won happiness. A ready-made family. It was the dream, wasn't it? The payoff after all the struggle. But let's pull back the curtain on that dream for a second. People close to the situation would later say Lavelle moved in with Brittany at a point where he had no car and was facing homelessness. She opened her home. She provided stability. And for a while, he played the part he knew she wanted to see. But what's the price of being the star of your own perfect story? Often, it's the silence you keep about the cracks in the set. Because off camera, a different story was being written. Police reports, domestic incidents, calls to that same house on Joyce Lewis Lane. The digital fairy tale had a shadow, and that shadow was getting longer. By the end of 2024, Lavelle's own social media took a turn, cryptic, dark messages about pain and becoming better. And Brittany's posts about him? They stopped. The curtain was falling on the performance. And behind it, Brittany was making a plan. A secret plan to leave. Which begs the question, when you've told everyone the story is a romance, how do you announce the thriller it's become? Brittany's mother, Cassandra, would later put it plainly. If someone starts abusing you and starts hitting you, that's not a good relationship. If someone starts belittling you and calling you names, that's not love. The control, the jealousy, the insecurity, it was all there. But when you've built your public identity around this relationship, leaving isn't just logistically dangerous. It feels like a public admission of failure. It means telling everyone the story you sold them was wrong. Brittany's best friend knew. In their last FaceTime call on December 31st, she noticed Brittany had an unusual glow. She was radiant. Brittany brushed it off as just makeup. But was it? Could it have been the relief of a decision finally made? That very morning, Brittany and her mother had been looking at apartments. She was getting her ducks in a row, finding a new place for her and her children. This was it. The exit strategy. She just had to get through the day. But here's the tragic, well-documented catch. 22 of abusive relationships. The moment you decide to leave is often the moment you're in the most danger. The abuser's control is slipping. Their ego is shattered. And for a person like Lavelle Rogers, who according to those close to him was struggling internally, that perceived rejection wasn't just an emotion, it was a trigger. So, when Brittany came home from apartment hunting and told Lavelle the truth, that she was leaving, what happened in that house wasn't a surprise to experts who study this pattern. But the specific details, those would shock the community. Because when the police arrived after reports of a shooting, their first assumption wasn't murder. It was that this might be self-inflicted. How could they get it so wrong so initially? The answer lies with the only other witnesses in the house that night. The children. The Tuscaloosa Violent Crimes Unit arrived on scene. Brittany Bolden was gone. The initial information pointed to a possible suicide. But then, investigators did the most important thing. They listened. To the children. Brittany's 5-year-old daughter was there. So, was one of Lavelle's own children. What those kids described shattered the self-inflicted theory on the spot. It was their testimony that redirected the entire investigation toward Lavelle Rogers. Their words formed the basis for a capital murder charge, a charge that in Alabama applies, in part, when a murder is committed in the presence of a child under 14. The very people he supposedly helped parent became the key witnesses against him. The illusion of the bonus dad was gone, replaced by a much colder reality. And this is where we have to talk about the system. The police had been called to that address before. There was a history. Yet, the danger wasn't treated as a ticking clock. Brittany's sister, Lauren, would later say, someone could have helped and saved her. It's the haunting refrain after every one of these tragedies. Was her digital narrative of happiness unconsciously influencing how seriously the underlying threats were taken? If the world sees a happy family, does the system see a lower priority? Lavelle Rogers was arrested and jailed, held without bond. The fairy tale was officially over. But for Brittany's family, the new horror was just beginning. Planning a funeral, facing life without a daughter and a sister, and trying to explain the unexplainable to 4 grieving children. In the wake of the tragedy, Brittany's mother, Cassandra, made a choice. She could have stayed quiet in her grief. Instead, she went in front of television cameras with a message for other women. It was a plea that came from the deepest, most painful place imaginable. What she said next wasn't just about her daughter. It was a lifeline thrown into the darkness, hoping to catch someone else before they fell. I can't help her, Cassandra said, her voice steady with a grief that hasn't even begun to soften. But maybe I can help other women out there that may be going through the same thing. She spoke the raw truth. It's not going to change. I think that's the problem with Brittany. She kept thinking that it was going to get better. There it is. The hope that becomes a trap. The belief in the story over the reality. Brittany's best friend posted a searing tribute online, directly addressing Lavelle. All she tried to do was help you with your struggles and stayed with you until she couldn't take it anymore. My friend felt like something bad was going to happen. That's why she was trying to get away from you. She felt it. She knew. And she was actively trying to escape when the worst happened. That is the brutal pattern. The community rallied. A GoFundMe for burial expenses. Tributes flooded in. But beyond the personal tragedy, Brittany's story struck a national nerve. Women saw themselves in that cycle, the public performance of happiness, the private endurance of fear, the dangerous crossroads of leaving. The statistics we know by heart. Every minute, 24 people experience intimate partner violence. They got a new face. The face of a smiling woman in Miami who just wanted a man who brought her flowers. So, who was Lavelle Rogers? Is he the man in the Miami photos, smiling next to the woman he loved? Or is he the man now charged with capital murder, held in the Tuscaloosa County Jail? The terrifying answer is, he is both. That is the heart of this tragedy. Abusers are rarely monsters in every single moment. They are often people who can be charming, helpful, affectionate, who can play the perfect part long enough to get their hooks in. That's how the trap is set. The good moments become the reason you excuse the bad ones. The public image becomes the cage that keeps you silent. Brittany Bolden's story is a cautionary tale for the digital age. It forces us to question the narratives we consume and the ones we create. How many red flags are smoothed over by a good filter? How much danger is hidden behind a happy anniversary post? Her death is not just a murder. It's a collision between two realities, the one she hoped for and the one she lived. And in the end, the darker reality one. This is where we turn to you. The True Crime Unraveled community is one of the most engaged out there, and we read every single theory, every observation, every shared story in the comments. So, let's talk about this. We've seen the stats, we know the pattern. Why do you think the curated, happy image of a relationship on social media can make it harder for victims to be believed, or even to believe themselves that they're in danger? Does presenting a perfect life inadvertently become a shield for an abuser? Put your thoughts down below. Let's have this crucial conversation. And if this deep dive into the space between perception and reality resonated with you, if you believe stories like Brittany's need to be told to spark change, please show your support. Hit the like button on this video. It's the single biggest way to tell the YouTube algorithm that this kind of thoughtful, investigative content matters, and it helps bring new voices into our community. To make sure you never miss our next investigation into the truths hidden in plain sight, subscribe to True Crime Unraveled on YouTube and follow True Crime Unraveled TV on Facebook and TikTok. Hit that notification bell so you're always the first to know when we post a new video. Until next time, keep searching for the truth.